Hello everyone, welcome to your team news ahead of Gameweek 18. Neale, twice in 1 week, you and I combined forces. Lovely, what a treat.
Yeah, what a treat for everyone. It's a lot shorter this one, of course, because
Yep,
there's only 10 teams to get through.
10 teams to get
And
through, 5 fixtures. Yeah, we'll be
yeah,
done nice and quick. We've got a bit of a bit at the end, which is kind of just going through the COVID situation for the clubs, obviously with all the games being sort of called off. Also, I just want to point people over to the Fantasy Football Scout website as well. If you look at the team news tab, there's a COVID watch section, which Neale and Tom are keeping updated as soon as we get any new information about the COVID status of various clubs and players. So the link's in the description to this, and head over and keep checking that because that's where the most up-to-date information is. Right, let's go straight into it then. So we've got the early game. So Neale, we should know if this game's going to go ahead by the deadline, right? Villa v Burnley.
yeah,
Nope, he's frozen.
yeah. We got short notice on Burnley. Let me try and move my laptop. I don't know why. I just started to go very, very
It's
crackly. Is that any better?
it's poignant, isn't it, to all the chaos?
Yeah.
We haven't had any problems on any
Nah.
stream until this one. It's typical.
I'm in exactly the same place as I always am as well. I don't know why it suddenly decided to do this. Am I any better now?
Yeah, you seem fine now.
Am I? Okay. I'll start again. Yeah, so of course Burnley v Watford in game week 17 was called off at very, very short notice. But even that 2.5 hours would be enough for us to know ahead of Saturday's deadline if that was reproduced again. So yeah, that's the early kickoff. 3 o'clock, Aston Villa v Burnley. Deadline's at 1:30. So yeah, barring any absolutely ridiculous circumstances, we should know. And that's why a lot of people are targeting not just Villa players for transfers, but I think for vice captaincy as well, because that guarantees you
Absolutely.
one playing captain. You know, if the worst happens on the Sunday matches with likes of Liverpool and Man City, and there is a risk of that, and of varying levels, then it's probably the safe move to do that. So I'm sure the likes of Watkins and Cash will be getting many transfers in this week. So yeah, I'll segue straight into the team news for Villa. Gerrard's come out and given us a clear-cut update, which is good. So we know that Nakamba, Bailey, and Traore are the injuries. They're all still out. Nakamba's going to be out for 12 to 16 weeks.
Wow.
After having surgery, yeah, and that's a big blow for them because
he's been doing so well as well. Such a shame.
He was like a player reborn. He was excellent. In a way that's good for Ramsey owners. I've just talked to Tom about this. He's a Villa fan, because although he's not a replacement for Nakamba, Douglas Luiz moves into the sort of number six role, which lessens the competition for Ramsey in midfield. So he is still, I think, 4.5. He might have gone up after his goal. I'm not entirely sure, but he's obviously maybe now the pick of the budget midfielders, and that's not just off the back of his goal. That's obviously off the back of the injuries as well.
4.5.
Yeah, 4.5 still. So yeah, still plenty of time to get on him. Ashley Young's 50-50 for this one as well. We're not entirely sure what the problem is there. 3 other players who are ruled out. Sanson. Hang on a second, I've lost it. Sanson, Davis, and El Ghazi. They all missed Tuesday's match, and although it hasn't been officially confirmed that they've got COVID, Gerrard has, announced that Villa have got players affected by coronavirus.
Yep.
So in the light of any, in the absence of any other information, we assume it's those 3 who've come down with it because they are missing for this weekend as well. So yeah, 6 red flags, 1 orange flag on Ashley Young, who's 50-50, but nothing else. So nothing else on Watkins or Cash or the chief targets. And Gerrard hasn't revealed any more positive test results, although they will be daily. At all the clubs around the country, they'll be having daily tests. So there's always a chance that something can change. So keep your eyes peeled until 1:30 tomorrow afternoon.
One question on Villa. Danny Ings played a few minutes last couple of games, but I mean he's the alternative, isn't he, to Watkins up front? Do you reckon he comes back in?
He might do, yeah. I've still yet to finalise the team predictions, but obviously with Young being out and Ramsey needed back in central midfield because Ramsey had been playing as one of the 10s as well of late. there's a possibility that Ings comes in and Watkins moves to one of the sort of supporting striker roles, like with Buendia, which has happened, I think, once under Gerrard. And as I say, Ings has been coming on as a sub in a couple of games as well, and that's what's happened. Watkins moving out of there. They haven't, Villa fans who I've sort of spoken to or read about have said that they haven't really got a great link up yet, Watkins and Ings, and that it almost makes Villa play worse when the two are on the same side. But Al Ghazi's out as well, so with Young absent, Trezeguet is just back from a very, very long-term injury, so I wouldn't have thought he'll be chucked in from the start. So it's definitely a possibility that Ings comes in and Watkins moves slightly wider, not much wider, because they're very, very narrow wingers. They've got they haven't really got much else they could do. So he'd be a very, very maverick differential pick for this week. Ings, Watkins is obviously the safer player, and that's where I'll be going with my transfer, Watkins.
So boring, Neil.
That's me.
And Burnley?
Burnley, yes. Cornier is still touch and go. Hasn't trained as of yesterday, so I would suggest that's more touch than go. It's 50-50 on FPL, but Dyche has historically not risked players when they've been a close run thing, so I don't think we'll see him. Barnes is still out, and Stevens and Roberts are both working their way back from various illnesses. I think Stevens had COVID, but is now free of the isolation. And Roberts has an infection which hospitalised him, but he's on the mend. Dyche did say they've got one fresh COVID case,
right?
And we don't know who that is. They removed him 5 or 6 days ago, I think it was. So there's a good chance that it hasn't spread. Dyche was very confident when he was speaking yesterday that they've contained it. So yeah, one case 5 or 6 days ago and none since. That hopefully means it isn't going to spread through Burnley's ranks. But we don't know who that player is, and that is the case for a number of clubs, unfortunately.
Wow, interesting. Leeds, Leeds, Arsenal next.
Yes, Arsenal. We've just heard from Arteta this morning. Nothing specific. He did say that they've not had any more positive tests. However, they're still ongoing. They'll have some more this afternoon, Arteta said. And as we've seen before, anything can spring out of nowhere. Arteta did mention that they've got a couple of issues in the week, injury issues, and they're going to train today and see how everyone's feeling. Now, we don't know who that is. And we did see Martinelli come off in some discomfort.
Don't say that.
Yeah, he was obviously, he limped off. Now, Arteta, speaking after that game, straight after full time, said it was cramp. So that's hopefully the case, and maybe Martinelli isn't one of those. What you've got to think about, though, is that it's less than 72 hours between games for Arsenal, and they've named an unchanged team for 3 games in a row. So you would think there's a lot of players reaching red zone status. People like Martinelli, who hasn't played for a long period, and all of a sudden he's strung together 3 successive starts in a very short space of time. Was clearly struggling physically towards the end. I'm not saying don't bring him in or sell him, but there's an obvious risk there with someone like that who hasn't been a regular first teamer for a while, and the games are coming thick and fast. And the fact that he was gingerly walking from the field of play on when was it, Wednesday, would be a minor concern, of course. And they've got Smith Rowe ready and fresh waiting to come in. Aubameyang's another key line from this press conference. He's still unavailable for selection, not through injury or illness. He's just suspended because of the disciplinary breach, and we think Leno's still out as well. But of course, Ramsdale's now well assured of that number 1 shirt.
Yep. And
Leeds, they are still missing a whole host of players. They've added 2 more as well onto the injury list. So Shackleton and who's the other one who's just joined them? Dan James.
Yeah. So they're starting striker and right back against Man City.
That's right, yeah. So 2 more, I guess, first teamers, 2 more who have been playing in the first team as a result of the absentees. So yeah, Bamford's obviously still out. Cooper, Rodrigo, Phillips, Pascal Strout, we think, as well. Firpo's banned, so that's another one.
Oh my God.
He's reached 5 yellow cards. And as I say, Shackleton and James as well. They have got Robin Koch back as well. Now he's been out for quite some time, not just with COVID, but with or illness with I think a pelvic problem as well. He's been out for 7 or 8 weeks. So whether he's up to a start is another question. So they really are going to be patched up against Arsenal. And you might see some of the youngsters actually not just making the bench as they have been doing, but starting. They like to sort of Cresswell maybe at centre half, maybe Gelhardt up front as well. He could be a good if you're playing your free hit or something like that this week. Then he's obviously a decent sort of 4.5 striking option as a sub. Could even start, given that they've got Bamford out, Rodrigo out, with James out as well, who's been playing up top. Roberts, of course, can play that role, but he might be needed further back. So yeah, they're badly hit even without COVID.
I mean, they were poor against City. I mean, obviously they lost 7-0 and that, but it was the basics that would worry me. I mean, Stones getting 3 chances to score from that corner, and they conceded from another corner a little bit later on. It was just
what made it strange was that they played brilliantly against Chelsea just a couple of days before.
I know.
And with a similarly decimated squad as well. They had a number of players out for that match and just turned in an absolute stinker against City. So you don't know what's going to happen on Saturday against Arsenal.
No, absolutely. Wolves, Chelsea next.
Chelsea. Yeah, Chelsea's pretty positive news actually. So the 4 who missed out with COVID positive tests on Thursday are still out, or at least unless there's some kind of false positive, but they'll all almost certainly be out. And they were Lukaku, Hudson-Odoi, Werner, and Chilwell, who was injured anyway. So they were all missing. Havertz was missing as well on Thursday night, but that was precautionary because he felt ill. He's since returned negative tests, so he's back in training. A couple of injury doubts, fresh injury concerns for Chelsea on top of the COVID cases in central midfield, which is a bit of a problem position at the moment. It's Jorginho and Loftus-Cheek. Jorginho's got a recurring, I think it's a back problem, and he's playing through the pain barrier, has been doing it for a while, has been overloaded in recent weeks because they have got no real alternatives in there. Saul proving that he's not really an able deputy.
Saul, not so good, man.
Yes, very good.
Thank you.
He, in fact, did he come on as a false 9 on Thursday? I read. I didn't actually see that game.
Did he? He came on for Alonso. I'm not sure where he.
Yeah, and then Pulisic moved to left wing back, I think.
Right.
I'll run that past the Chelsea forums again. But I was watching the other 2 games on Thursday, so I'll check into that. But yeah, it's Loftus-Cheek and Jorginho being the starters by default in central midfield of late, and have now paid the consequence because Jorginho's playing from game to game with his pain, and then Loftus-Cheek I think landed on his ankle on Thursday, and he's got pain as well. So there are doubts. Kante and Kovacic are back. Kante was on the bench, unused, I think, and Kovacic is out of isolation. I think he trains today for the first time. In an ideal world, they'd be substitutes again, but Tuchel saying this afternoon that he might have to throw them straight in to the start.
I like his comment. If ever a quote threw shade on Saul, it was this: maybe we start with N'Golo and Matteo. Would that be fair? No. Would that be possible? I don't know. But maybe we do it because who else? Saul's just there like, oh,
ouch. Yeah, I think he'll be way back to Spain.
I think so.
Maybe in January. But yeah, I think that's it in terms of team news. Yeah, and Tuchel, it pains to point that the lottery begins again tomorrow when they have another round of tests. So we just never know.
It's a good analogy for all of us as FPL managers, I think, Matt.
Yeah.
The lottery.
It is.
Yep. And Wolves, some fresh concerns for them.
Yes. 2 injuries, Ait-Nouri and
so
Hwang.
did he brought him in, Ait-Nouri, as well.
Yeah, well, he's looked really good, and Wolves' defence has been excellent. You know, they really are one of the low-key best defences in the league now, and he was available at such a nice price. Now he's out, or it seems like he's out. Same with Hwang. We don't know for how long. Bruno's been very, very sketchy on the details in his presser. He wasn't telling us the full picture. So I think that's why he's 25% flagged. I'm not sure if he completely ruled him out of this one, but it sounds like I think they're just assessing how long it'll be. And it is such a quick turnaround between games that you think they wouldn't risk it. 2 more positive tests COVID-wise. Nothing from an FPL perspective that will interest folk. It's Mosquera, who was already injured, and Fabio Silva, who's a very much backup striker. Now they are undergoing second PCR tests to ensure that their results were correct. But where there's a COVID at a club, even if it's one or two, there's always a concern that it spreads. But as for now, it's just those two.
Okay. Excellent. Newcastle next.
Yep. Newcastle, no COVID cases here. Not so far anyway. Fernandez and Dummett were pre-existing injuries. We added 2 more fitness concerns on Thursday against Liverpool. Jamal Lewis certainly looks like he's going to miss us out on this one. He picked up a hamstring strain, so even a low-grade one's going to rule him out for this. St. Maximin, we don't know what the issue is yet. Could be muscular, could be a knock. Even Eddie Howe didn't know. The problem with Newcastle team news is that Eddie Howe was speaking immediately after the game last night. He's not delivering a standalone Gameweek 18 press conference. So what it was just an interview we had last night, embargoed quotes hello till today. So there's nothing fresh really. It's what he knew immediately after full time last night, which is not a lot in terms of St. Maximin. He wasn't sure, as I say, if it was an impact of a challenge or if it was something muscular. So he's obviously a doubt as well. Callum Wilson was rested last night. Eddie Howe confirmed that. He's done this before, I think, at Bournemouth as well with Wilson, obviously with his history of injuries. And he's threatened a lot of rotation tomorrow. He says, well, obviously, when Newcastle playing Liverpool City back-to-back, we're going to be a lot of time off the ball, chasing, running around, trying to get some sort of semblance of possession. So I think there'll be quite a lot of rotation with that Newcastle team tomorrow, on Sunday, sorry.
You nervous?
Well, I've just written this one off anyway. Same with last night. Anything sort of goal difference that can help the goal difference would be handy. Like a 2-0 or a 3-1 as it was last night.
You'd be lucky, Neil.
It's sad. It's sad that you have to settle for that, but that's the sort of situation we are in. And damage limitations, I think, is the watchword for Sunday. But absolutely no chance we're going to get anything from that.
Well, I will ask you for some City news, but the press conference was cancelled.
It was. Pep might have COVID. He's returned an inconclusive coronavirus test, which I'm assuming means the lateral flow was positive, and he now needs to do a PCR to confirm the result. So that's what's going to happen. That's why he's not in the press conference. No one's taking his place. So we're not going to get any team news. I'm assuming. I don't think Man City aren't like Arsenal or Watford or Spurs as used to be, where they put out a separate medical bulletin. It's all come from Pep in the past. So we are going in blind, I think, for Sunday. So we don't know the latest on Bernardo, for example, who came off with niggles. I think it was described as muscular niggles by Pep. Said he wasn't injured, and it was just precautionary. And that is 5 days between games, so that is pretty good turnaround at this time of year. Walker wasn't fit enough to feature either. I think that's the 3rd time he's missed out in 4 weeks, 4 matches. So he wasn't involved, so he's still yellow flagged. And again, no update on him. Torres was the only one we knew about in terms of existing injuries. He's red flagged. He'll be out for a little while. But there's no suggestions that any of the City players are affected by COVID yet. It's just Pep. He had gone to Barcelona on Wednesday to see Aguero's retirement press conference. So I'm not sure if that's where he's got. I'm not sure what the dormancy period is for COVID or how long it actually takes to manifest itself. But it could be that. But where a manager is positive, then obviously there might be a little bit of a concern that if he's in close contact with his players, then the players will follow suit. But nothing to suggest that just yet. And even if it's Pep alone who gets tested positive, then that doesn't mean the game's at risk, because Newcastle had that in Gameweek 13 against Arsenal, where Eddie Howe tested positive and the game went ahead. There was no indication or suggestion that was going to be postponed, so long as it doesn't spread to the wider players or staff. Then currently the game's on, but a lot can happen in 24 hours or 48 hours as it is, and there's always the risk that we get past the deadline tomorrow and then one of the Sunday games gets called off. So
that's the problem with a game like City v Newcastle, because you want to stock up on City assets, and captain, potential rival captain with Salah at Spurs, it's just too risky.
Exactly.
Yep. Speaking of Spurs, that's our final match of the week. Will Spurs play? Because they haven't played in ages. Will we finally see him on the pitch?
It seems that way for now. I reckon this might be if another one is to go, this could be the one. Only because Liverpool have got some cases as well, and Spurs are working their way back. But Spurs are, at least you'd think, on the other side of it now, on the other side of the worst of their outbreak, because they're getting players back into training. And we don't know exactly who it is. We know who's been absent from training. At least we did sort of whenever the last training session was, sort of 10 days ago, before the training ground shut. So we knew, reports suggested that Son wasn't there, Emerson, Skip, I think, as well. Højbjerg, I think, was missing. So there's players like this who weren't there. Doesn't mean to say there were COVID cases, but I think at the worst, Conte said there was 9 players affected. And now a lot of those will be coming back into training now, because they were one of the earliest clubs to be affected by COVID, and a lot of them will be back on the grass certainly by Sunday. But Conte is stressing this afternoon that many of them will not be risked, or at least from the start, because they might be theoretically able to play out of isolation, but they've missed so much training, and not just match fitness levels, but the risk of succumbing to further injury as well. With the games coming thick and fast, is not worth taking. So we didn't get names on the COVID cases. We did get a mention of Region. He had an injury. He's been training individually, and he's back in team training, I think, tomorrow. So still a quick turnaround for him. His first proper training session a day before the game. So will he start or not? At least he's in contention, and at least he's a name who hasn't been grouped amongst that COVID lot. So he's a candidate for the matchday squad at the very least, if you've still got him.
Yep.
Romero is the only one we know about in terms of injuries. He's a longer term one with a hamstring problem.
Has he had his scan yet?
Romero, he might have done, but we haven't had a Conte present for quite some time. That we wouldn't have had any results from it. So he didn't mention him today. The bulk of the press comments was dedicated to COVID talk.
Yep.
So yeah, and he was heavily implying that he's not going to take risks on even the players who are out of isolation now on Sunday. So it'll be the core group who've trained either individually or collectively over the last 2 weeks without a game.
Yep. Nice. And Liverpool?
Liverpool, yeah. 3 cases last night. Van Dijk, Fabinho and Curtis Jones. Now, Klopp hasn't completely ruled them out of Sunday yet, because I think they've yet to take a PCR test, so it could still come back as a false positive. But they were missing last night anyway, and the 25% flag reflects the fact that likely to miss out, but there's always a chance that it could be a false positive. And he is one of the ones who's been transparent with his COVID talk, and he's even promised to let us know if they are false positive. So because he's urging other managers to do the same, which, good luck with that, because I think being cynical, a lot of managers, whilst they say they're respecting medical confidentiality with the names, I suspect a lot of them are using it for their own nefarious means by not revealing team use information and making it harder for the opposition to predict their 11. So yeah, Van Dijk, Fabinho and Jones are the ones we know about. They've got more tests this afternoon. The players haven't trained yet because it was just last night that they were in action. So Klopp says they want the game to go ahead on Sunday. They're very keen for that to happen. If they return another 6, 7, 8 this afternoon, he said, then obviously that won't be the case. But as things stand, it's going ahead. Injury-wise, nothing new from last night that we've heard of. Firmino came back as a sub, so he's now an option up top. Origi was still missing with a knee problem, and Harvey Elliott is still out longer term. But injury-wise, they're getting a lot of their names back. It's just obviously that trio of ill players now.
Yeah, he said 2 of them were going to start as well, didn't he? Assuming that's Fabinho and Van Dijk.
And Van Dijk, yeah. Curtis Jones was just back from a long period out himself with an eye injury, so he would have been on the bench at best. Yeah.
Yep. Excellent. So that's the 5 games rounded up. Just again to mention, if you're interested in any more sort of the latest stuff on COVID that Neale and Tom are doing, there's a link in the description of this video. It's the team news tab on fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. And yeah, that's where all the latest sort of COVID news is. Just any other news for us, Neale, on anything related to COVID before we finish?
I mean, I can give you sort of a brief roundup of what's happened to the other 10. if you want.
Why
Obviously, it's
not?
not going to have any impact on Game Week 18, but it's if you're thinking about saving transfers for 19, not that I suggest anyone does that because you just do not know what's going to happen. So yeah, the 10 who are not in action this week. Brentford, their game against Southampton was called off because Thomas Frank, in the middle of his press conference, found out that Brentford had 13 positive cases. I think he got a call whilst he was speaking to the media to tell him that he had over a baker's dozen of
Sorry, my dog's
positive
going
cases. Yeah, I seamlessly, what a pro I am, just kept on
nuts. Oh,
talking.
beautiful. I had no doubt.
Yeah, so it wasn't just players, I should say. It was players and staff amongst that 13. He did say that Tony and Pinnock were back, so their flags have come off, but of course their game's off now. Brighton's game's off as well against Manchester United. That's because of Man United's issues. Brighton themselves had a whole lot of injuries and illnesses going into Game Week 18. Duffy is now free of suspension, but Bissouma's now banned after picking up his 5th yellow card. Veltman pulled his hammy late in the game on Tuesday, so he's a fresh doubt. Dunk is already out. Sarmiento was already out. Welbeck was already out. And then they had a number of players missing out on Tuesday. The most high profile was obviously Neale Maupay, who we think is obviously affected by COVID. But again, they're not in action in Game Week 18. Going down the list, Burnley are playing, Chelsea are playing, Palace. Their game's off, and no new cases or known cases in their squad, so I think all's quiet on that front. Everton's game's off in Game Week 18 as well. They had 4 unexpected absentees last night. Damari Gray, again, being the most high profile of them, Rondon, Delphin, and Tosin as well. But their game was initially called off because of Leicester. So there's a chance for Everton's to get worse, I think. Leicester themselves were due to play Spurs last night, and that was called off. They had a number of players absent for a good week, actually, already. I think 8 in total, only one of which, Amati, was due back last night. But that game was subsequently called off. And the likes of Vestergaard, Lookman, Perez, Iheanacho are amongst the 7 who were confirmed as being ill. Not necessarily officially confirmed as having COVID, but putting the 2 and 2 together. And those are amongst the players. So they're all still affected by COVID. United.
Happy little update, this, Neil.
Sorry?
Happy little update, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what a torrent of misery this is. United, I mean, they seem to be pretty badly hit. We don't know exactly who was affected, but their game against Brighton was the first to be postponed of Game Week 18. They were at the apex of their outbreak, I think, earlier this week. So that would still put Game Week 19 in doubt on box. Or is it 27th? They're playing on the 27th. I might give them an extra day. But given that it was sort of hitting the worst around about the 14th, the 13th, to 14th of December, then 10 days after that, then that's sort of still an element of doubt. I think Ronaldo wasn't pictured arriving at Carrington, so there's maybe a slight concern about him. We definitely aren't in the realms of rumour now, though, in terms of who's missing out, because we've heard nothing from United on who's affected. Norwich, their game's off, of course, this weekend against West Ham. They had 4 players missing from Tuesday, and they were Rupp, Lees-Melou, Solis, and Sargent, and their game's subsequently called off. I don't know if it's got any worse because of that. Southampton, again, their game was called off with Brentford, not because of them, but because of the Bees. So nothing that we know of from the Saints. Watford had an insufficient number of first-team players, according to statements, to play against Burnley.
That was Tuesday. A surprise, wasn't it? 2 hours.
Yeah,
before.
that was before. 2.5 hours before kickoff. So that was Tuesday, which was the 14th. Again, 10 days time, Christmas Eve, puts Game Week 19 maybe in some doubt as well. What you would say is that if you're playing the longer term game and you've got the opportunity to bench likes of King or Dennis, they are one of the clubs who potentially could get a triple game week 21, because there's 2 free midweeks in game week 21, because there's like a fortnight between deadlines, and they're not in Carabao Cup semi-final action, and no other opponents. So it's possible, but that's of course operating under the assumption that everything gets back to normal very quickly, and it doesn't look that way. But anyway, that's something to think about. West Ham, their game, of course, was postponed against Norwich for Norwich's purposes. I don't think there's anything within the West Ham squad to worry about per se, but a lot can change, I think, in between now and Boxing Day. So I personally, I'm not playing any sort of longer term games. I'm just looking at sort of week to week now and getting 11 out, and because I don't think we've seen the end of this. And I think on my transfers this week are going to be targeting players who not just have a fixture this weekend, but have an early fixture, and who could potentially be in action on Boxing Day. I'll point in the direction of Legomani's Twitter page. He's got a graph where he's drawn up next 3 opponents and made it colour coded. And Villa's next 3 are all against teams who are playing this weekend, so they haven't had a big COVID outbreak. So, if you're being optimistic, then Watkins could be a hold for the next 3. But if we're into the realms of guessing games now,
or you could argue that Spurs have had theirs, and
I suppose so. Might
be better off in a few weeks.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, you could look at it that way. But yeah, in terms of longer term strategy, everything's now absolutely kaput. I feel sorry for people who've held their wild card as well.
I was about to say that is a real dilemma. What to do with that?
You've been so patient, and you would have had a great chance to make ground on people, because obviously AFCON's coming up and fixture swings for certain clubs, and now you just don't know what to do with it. I'm guessing you hold now for 19 or 20 and hoping there's some kind of clarity, but then you might miss out on losing it altogether if we get a suspension.
Oh God, you really are full of joy, aren't you, Neale?
I'm sorry.
Apologies for my dog as well. My dog stole the spotlight a bit. He really doesn't like the door going. It's like he just absolutely goes crazy for it. So weirdly, I think this is
a bit of levity there. It makes the misery.
Well, we had your freezing at the start, my dog going crazy. It's just that kind of, for the final video of the week and going into this weekend, I think it's pretty apt. But Neale, that's amazing, comprehensive as ever. Hopefully we'll be back next week and the league doesn't get postponed. You never know what's going to happen. At the moment, things are still going ahead, and we can only kind of work with what we've got and what we know, which is everything you've been talking about. So good luck to everyone this week. Hopefully you can all get a team out, and we'll see what happens.